All right. And we are live today, again, Friday night GameSwap in Mason on Top Deck Productions, brought to you by Twitch TV. I'm Mark Anliker. I'm here with Mario Krabari.
How's it going, everybody?
And round one tonight, Modern Magic. We've got an exciting matchup. Joe Russell on Abzan, Ben Wienburg on Grixis Delver. It's going to be a grindy matchup, folks. I believe Joe's playing, your typical Abzan mid-range deck. So we're probably going to see some Siege Rhinos maybe, but
Siege
who
Rhino,
knows?
that was a standard all-star back in the day.
Yeah, standard all-star. Could be more of a Grim Flayer deck, but you could also have Grim Flayer and Siege Rhino.
Probably some Lingering Souls, maybe?
Probably, almost certainly some Lingering Souls. I would hope so. That card is a house. That's going to be a tough card for Ben Wienburg to deal with. The Grixis generally doesn't have a lot of good answers for that Lingering
multiple
Souls.
tokens there. I think Abzan's probably favored in this matchup. They probably have a decent amount of removal for what Ben is trying to do, but we'll see.
Yeah. I will say Lingering Souls, like I said, can obviously be a huge powerhouse in this matchup. I don't know if Grixis Delver is going to have the tools to deal with it. A lot of Grixis decks can try things like Jace Architect of Thought is pretty effective against Lingering Souls. His
right,
plus
that just
one
turns them off.
Yeah, nullifies their damage. But I don't know if a Delver list is going to have that even in the sideboard. So I'm curious to see what the makeup of Ben's Grixis Delver list is.
So it looks like Joe is on, or Ben, sorry, is on the play here.
So yeah, Ben's on the play.
No, Joe is on the play.
Oh, Joe's on the play, okay.
Blooming Marsh into Thoughtseize. So good look at Ben's hand.
Seems pretty good.
So Ben has two Delve creatures, Tasker and Gurmag Angler there. He also has the Young Pyromancer and a Fatal Push.
So interestingly, Ben does not have a lot of good ways to get these Delve threats out right now.
Right, he's only got one fetch land.
He's got one fetch land and one Fatal Push he can put in the yard. And interestingly, again, this Young Pyro doesn't have a lot of spells to cast with it. So Ben has got kind of an awkward mix of cards here. He's going to have to find some good stuff off the top. He'd love to find a Thought Scour.
Yeah, that would be perfect here. So Joe's going to decide to take the Fatal Push, indicating he probably has some creatures in his hand he'd like to keep alive. I think he has a Termagorth there, I see.
Maybe even a Dark Confidant, but it's unclear if Joe's Abzan list will have Dark Confidant, but that'd be an important card to try and protect here.
Right.
Especially since he knows that Ben's hand doesn't have much going for it for the first couple of turns.
Yeah. Yeah, so he does have Tarmogoyf. I saw a Liliana of the Last Hope in Joe's hand, and I think he actually does have Dark Confidant as well, so we'll see which 2-drop he decides to play here.
So Joe will shock himself down to 16 with the Godless Shrine. Yet we'll see the Tarmogoyf. That guy is just a 2/3.
You're right, no land in the graveyard yet.
2/3 is kind of a dangerous Tarmogoyf against this Bolt
deck. It's a 3/4 now, since the fetch will put 3 card types in the yard.
Ben Wienburg protecting his life total, but we know he has some other lands in hand, so.
And here's Young Pyromancer. Not looking too good in the face of a Tarmogoyf, but we'll see if Ben drew any spells. It also is going to actually, it's a pretty unfortunate play knowing that Joe has Liliana the Last Hope in hand, just can instantly kill this Young Pyromancer. We'll see if that's what he does.
I think he'll try to bait the block, but probably not going to work, so. Yeah, if Joe has a third land, we'll probably see that Liliana come down. That would be a pretty strong start for the first couple of turns here.
He does have a third land, so yeah, that's probably what we're going to be seeing here. And Ben with no further pressure that we know of, this Lily might just take the game away. Of course he has bolts and the like, but.
Yeah, if Joe is able to resolve that Liliana ultimate, which it seems right now that. Oh, the Dark Confidant, okay.
Oxford, Dark Confidant, Fatal Push instead.
So I think I like that play too. At this point, Joe is fairly certain that Ben doesn't have the removal for that Confidant, and so he can freely draw a few cards here and run away with the game that way too.
Interestingly, he did leave a point of damage on the table. If he would have pushed the Pyromancer pre-combat, it would have put a creature in the yard, but probably won't be too relevant.
Oh, sure.
See if Ben can muster anything, if his hand's improved at all. He is getting closer to casting the Delve creatures. Instead, he just is going to pass the turn here, though, back to Joe. Reveals ooze. Joe will
take
take
ooze.
2 damage from that. So now, if I'm Joe, maybe I'm a little bit more worried about casting Lily with all this open mana. I don't know if Ben has many counter spells main board, maybe a remand or something.
Yeah, I think Joe really can just go to attacks here and wait for Ben to use some mana, but it looks like Joe will...
He's going to check if the coast
that
is clear.
seems fine.
Snapcaster push here from Ben in response. And still has the 2 Delve creatures in hand. Well, at least I assume Ben will have targeted push. He's just waiting to cast it. He can cast it anytime this turn. Again, Snapcaster dies to Liliana. Yep.
So it looks like Ben's targeted push, but has decided not to cast it yet.
Yeah, not yet.
I think you got to take the Dark Confidant.
You think that over the Tarmogoyf here? Yeah.
I mean, I suppose, you know, it's possible that one of Ben's only outs here is to try to get Joe to have some bad reveals off that Confidant, get to low enough life, and find a bolt or two.
That could be.
But I think if you let him have the Confidant...
Well, he decides to take the Tarmogoyf. It's interesting, too, because Ben is likely going to be able to cast a Delve creature here, which maybe could have blocked the Tarmogoyf, but...
Yeah, I think that Confidant really could run away with the game here, especially in tandem with this Lily. Joe just has so much value he's going to get
2 must-answer
every turn.
threats as soon as Ben can answer them. So he's got 4 cards in the yard currently. He has a fetch land, which will put him to 5, and so that'll let him cast either Tasigur or the Gurmag Angler. Fetches up a basic island. Or no, I'm sorry, he got the Blood Crypt with that. Alright, so Ben is going to deploy his Gurmag Angler here.
Yeah, so, interestingly, you know, if Joe chooses to, he can just get that Tarmogoyf back by minusing this Lily.
Right. Lets him get a
and then play the Tarmogoyf
back from his graveyard.
Continue to effectively block for Lily. And Joe is going to continue to draw cards off this Confidant. So I really like pushing the you know, pushing the Confidant there instead, especially like you said, Mario. You know, he's got a Gurmag Angler that can block most Tarmogoyfs. So, and this isn't necessarily a matchup where you see a 6/7 or a 7/8 Tarmogoyf. So I think I like pushing the Confidant.
The Angler is a pretty good threat here, though, as Joe's brought his life total all the way down to 11. A few more hits from Confidant makes that a two-turn clock. So there's another.
That's true, but you know, so Joe has the Scavenging Ooze in hand, which obviously Ben doesn't know, but that Scavenging Ooze is able to gain him some life here too. It's a little bit of a non-bow with the Liliana. You can't eat a creature and get it back with Liliana. But Lingering Souls is big here. Again, like we talked about at the outset, that's going to be a really tough card for Ben to deal with. It's going to block that Gurmag Angler
all day,
for days.
So we'll see. He's got 4 mana. I think he has a land in hand to go to 5.
Yeah, so Joe actually has 4 mana or 5 mana, but he's got 4 green sources. So this Scavenging Ooze could be huge. Yeah, and so we can actually see him, you know, passively gain some life and also take Ben totally off of his graveyard.
Yeah, that's true. The Scavenging Ooze is a good card against this
and
Delve deck.
Joe knows that Ben's hand is full of Delve threats. It's going to be really tough to power him out through that Scavenging Ooze. We'll see Joe preemptively eat this graveyard here.
Also, flashback Lingering Souls, giving him plenty of blockers for the time to come. And with this board state, Joe can probably just sit on his Planeswalker and Confidant and run away with it.
Now, again, I won't write it off that I think part of Ben's reason for not pushing that Confidant could be to
just
try
hope,
to
hope
try
that
to kill
Joe
him.
dwindles his life total low enough.
You got to play to your outs, and if Ben is maybe sitting on a Lightning Bolt or a Snapcaster Lightning Bolt, the Dark Confidant plan becomes pretty real.
That's true.
But the Gurmag Angler plan is not very real right now.
Not looking great right here.
No. So we'll see what Ben has to follow up here.
I don't think he has enough mana to cast Tasigur, since the card was exiled out of his graveyard.
Yeah, so he's got 1 polluted delta, which is not enough on
Right, because Tasigur costs 6 total.
Lands. Yep.
He's going to attack here? Seems kind of risky. I mean, I guess the Angler's not doing much else, but reconsiders.
Maybe he was going to tap it and Manamorphose for Chord mana? Who knows?
Seems unlikely in the Grixis list, but you never know.
Ben's really in the tank on this one. My guess is he just knows he doesn't have a lot of outs here.
Right.
And if he swings, he can always get Joe to misplay and not block. Okay, swinging at the Lily.
Yeah.
That leads me to believe that Ben is possibly on some way to create a bunch of blockers. You know, if Ben did have Young Pyro,
I think he may have a Young Pyromancer.
If he had Young Pyro, Thought Scour push or something like that,
yeah,
that would be pretty good. He could put out
nice
three blockers.
Of course, the Pyromancer would just die to Liliana again, but
sure. I can't see Joe not just
just
killing this with a
token.
Yeah,
he could triple block with the ooze and the other stuff and take it down if he wanted to.
Yeah, so Joe will just throw 1 token in front of that fish. Yeah, I am curious to see what Ben does here.
So you may have a Kolagon's command that he's thinking about casting. Yeah.
So the Scavenging Ooze is just a 2/2 right now. So Kolagon's command is not bad.
Alternatively, he could use it to kill Liliana.
He could, yep.
He's going to take out the Confidant instead.
So Ben is clearly not on the plan of let Confidant.
Seems like some mixed decisions here.
I would have much preferred killing the Confidant before you gave your opponent all that opportunity.
2 or 3 extra draws.
Yeah. That Confidant was like a really, really evil Elvish Visionary.
So Joe will play the Tarmogoyf that he got back last turn. And he's going to exile 2 cards, yeah.
Yep, so again, Ben really cannot cast any of these Delve threats. This is a great Scavenging Ooze, and one of the reasons we see this card in so many lists in Modern. It just does a whole lot for you. It's not a bad beater. It's not a bad blocker. And when you can prevent your opponent from casting their should-be cheap spells, that's a whole lot of value. I mean, this Scavenging Ooze is effectively taking at least 2 cards out of Ben's hand. We know Ben has, I think, another Gurmag Angler and a Tasigur. Is that right?
We know he has Tasigur. I'm not sure what he's drawn into.
I thought his opening hand had 3 Delve threats.
No, it had one of each.
Okay.
His hand has at least 1 land and Tasigur and 1 unknown. So if the land is a fetch land, he would be able to cast Tasigur here. Said he's going to move to attacks, it looks like. Yeah, you know, no fault to Ben. Navigating through this board state is pretty complicated. His life total is becoming low now. He's got to worry about Liliana, so he might want to attack, but if he attacks, he's basically dead on the kickback. He's going to play his land here, so this will allow him to cast Tasigur if he wants, with the 5 mana and then delving the fetch land out of his graveyard. Pretty good blocker here. It can block Tarmogoyf.
Yep, can block the Tarmogoyf, though it can't block the Tarmogoyf very well if he uses his Liliana on one of these threats, because that would make the Tasigur into what, a 2/4.
2/4, yes.
It would make the Gurmag Angler into a 3/4. So I guess both of which, for the time being, do block the Goyf, but they don't kill the Goyf.
So good news for Ben. I don't think there's any creatures currently that the ooze can process to grow.
No, looks like Joe just drew a path, which means can he swing for? No, he can't. He can't quite swing for lethal with a path, but he can put Ben pretty low.
Yeah, path off the top, very good for Joe here.
Though I do suppose Joe does have to be a little bit worried about getting blown out by a swing back and something like a Snapcaster Bolt, but but he can always play around that with Scavenging Ooze, the Snapcaster plan. So we'll see him path the Gurmag.
The Angler. He's probably going to disable Tasker a little bit. Yep. Yeah, so this makes Tasker's blocks. Well, it still has 4 toughness, so currently it's not going to die to anything. But
yeah, so
not great.
So Ben is taking at least 3 or at least 4 damage here. That'll put him to 2.
He's going to block the Goyf. Yep, goes to 2, and then Joe has another Tarmogoyf.
So this is
probably the end for Ben.
Yeah, this might be it. I don't know what Ben could have.
And probably no main deck damnation.
We'll see this. Yeah, no bonfire miracle off the top.
Unfortunately,
all right, so
not for him.
See, I think what happened there was, truthfully, Ben's hand was pretty awkward, almost as awkward as it gets for a Grixis player that isn't going to mulligan. He had 2 Delve threats and a Pyro with only 1 spell to cast, and it was a reactive spell, not a Serum Visions or a Thought Scour. So that's a tough hand. I don't think you would mulligan it because it's a blind. That
right, you don't know what your opponent's on.
Yeah, you got no idea what your opponent's on.
If you do draw a Thought Scour, it's great.
Yeah. But generally speaking, that was not the strongest hand for Ben.
Right. Just a note, I think the match or the game result is incorrect. Joe actually won that one, so it should be 0-1 in Joe's
leading
favor.
the game here. So what do you think Joe's bringing in out of the sideboard?
Joe's sideboard.
I'm not sure he needs much.
His main deck is very well suited.
If he has Leyline of the Void, I'm not even sure you want it. When you have your Scavenging Ooze, you don't want to necessarily be down a card. And these Grixis decks, they have a lot of graveyard strategies, but it's not like Dredge, right? Scavenging Ooze might be enough. And I say when you're up a game, I would maybe hold off on something like a Leyline if you had it.
He could have additional Scavenging Oozes, perhaps.
Yeah, could have another Scavenging Ooze. That could be good.
Do you think he would bring in something maybe just like a Thrag Tusk, to
the value game
to win the mid range, gain some extra life.
He also doesn't necessarily know that Ben is on Delver. He saw the young Pyro, but that can mean any number of things. He actually doesn't know that Ben has Delver of Secrets. Of course, Ben might not even leave in Delver of Secrets. The real question here is that, given that Ben knows that Joe might not know that he's on Delver, does Ben leave in the does he leave in those Delvers?
Do you take out the Delvers in Grixis Delver? That just seems.
There are a lot of matchups where you don't really want it, but.
I guess it is pretty bad against Lingering Souls.
And the question for Joe is, does Joe want Abrupt Decay here? Obviously, Abrupt Decay is great. It can't be countered, and you can take out a young Pyro or a Delver, but he doesn't know the Delvers are there, and Abrupt Decay is really bad.
The rest of his removal
the man lands, if there are any man lands, and also against the Tasker and the Gurmag Angler.
Well, the removal that we've already seen out of Joe, Fatal Push and Path, I think is already probably good enough for what he's seen out of Ben.
Sure.
But
so what do we think Ben has to bring in? It's hard to fight these black-green mid-range decks. There's not a whole lot of ways to fight them. Their cards are just pretty good. But I wonder if Ben has.
Ben maybe could bring in some graveyard hate to tone down the Tarmogoyfs, keep Lingering Souls out, maybe something like a Relic of Progenitus or the like.
That could be. I do think Ben is going to need a way to fight Lingering Souls.
Right.
And again, like I said at the outset, I'm doubtful that he has that. I'm doubtful that he has that Jace Architect of Thought.
Right.
He could have. I don't know. I don't think a Grixis Delver list would have Pyroclasm, but if he did, it would be good against that would be good against Dark Confidant and against it can be good against Lingering Souls and Scavenging Ooze. But I don't know. I think Ben's gonna have a tough time sideboarding against this Abzan deck. Maybe there's something we're not thinking of. I wish I had their lists in front of us, but
Ben is on the play here, which will help him quite a bit. If you can get Delver on turn 1 and not get it removed quickly, that could be a great start.
I think what Ben really needs to do here is find as many Snapcasters in the mid game as possible. Hopefully all 4 of them.
Oh, okay.
And and try to kill any scavenging ooze on site.
So Ben's going to lead it off with the Serum Visions here. I did see in his hand, I believe he brought in engineered explosives.
Okay.
So that could be a good way to clean up.
Clean up goifs, clean up tokens.
Yeah, you can play it on
clean
0
up
for the
scavenging
tokens or
ooze.
play it on 2 to take out all of Joe's threats.
Yeah, I think that's good. I actually wonder if Joe is also playing engineered explosives. That's not a bad card to bring in once you see the pyro. It's just unfortunate that you can't ever hit Tasker or Gurmag.
Yeah, I don't think you're casting explosives X7. Looks like Ben might also have Mana Leak in hand.
So Joe is, for the time being, not playing around Blood Moon. It's unclear if Ben has Blood Moon. I suppose that's one he could bring out of the board if he wanted to.
Yeah.
But might not be the best thing to do.
So here's Tarmogoyf from Joe, currently a 2-3.
Okay, we'll see the Mana Leak on the Tarmogoyf.
Okay, yeah. So he did have Mana Leak in hand. Takes care of Tarmogoyf, which is good for Ben.
Mana Leak, unfortunately, is not very good against Lingering Souls, so that's good that he got it out of the way there
Right,
on
got some
a
good
worthwhile
value with it.
threat.
Another Serum Visions.
I think we are in for a particularly grindy matchup this
Yeah,
time.
this one's
This is
starting slow,
going to be
long.
some good mid-range magic here. I can't quite see what Joe's sitting on.
Yeah, I'm not sure. He's got a Thoughtseize, I see that.
Just drew a Thoughtseize. Probably would have liked to have that turn 1. So Joe's going to shock. I wonder if he has a Liliana here.
Looks like it. No, it's a
Oh,
Kitchen
Kitchen
Finks.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's definitely a good one in
Pretty
this
good
matchup.
mid-range, yeah.
Hard for Grixis to deal with.
It's going to get remanded here. It's
Remand.
not great. Ben's graveyard is building up pretty handily here. We could see a Delve threat pretty soon.
Yeah, Remand's not a super popular card right now, but it's certainly good against these mid-range decks that are trying to curve out and drop a 1-drop, a 2-drop, a 3-drop, and then a 4-drop. Obviously, Remand's a lot worse against a Death Shadow deck, but
Right.
Ben could tell that Joe was not on some sort of Abzan Death Shadow.
So Ben just passed with 4 mana up here, and now Joe is going to Thoughtseize him. Looks like Ben has a response, though. Nope. He could counter this Thoughtseize if he wants. He could Snapcaster Mana Leak it if he has that. But maybe he doesn't want to waste his Mana Leak like that.
You think this Delver deck has any cryptic commands? Even just one?
I feel like if you're playing Cryptic Commands, you have more than one, so I'm going to go with no. He does have Counter Squall here, though.
Counter Squall. That's.
Do you think that's main
card.
deck?
You know what? That's a good question. That could be out of the sideboard, but that's also not a bad main board card. It's especially relevant for a Delver deck where you always want to be protecting your Delvers.
Right.
So
Seems reasonable.
So even if your
deck.
opponent isn't playing Escape Shift, you still want to be able to counter their Terminates.
So far, it looks like Ben is ahead. Joe's already brought his life total down to 13. Everything he's tried to do has been countered by Ben.
Yeah,
but
and
we'll see maybe if he can resolve something here.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Ben's got these two blue manas up. I don't know.
And this is the type of game that Ben wants to be playing.
Yeah, definitely.
Controlling him out, and then one turn he can drop Tasker for 1 mana, leave up whatever he needs, and just run away with it from there. So Joe is going to cast Lingering Souls
Lingering
here.
Souls, again, is very, very bad spell to counter. So we'll see that resolve. At least, I think we're going to see it resolve.
Looks like it.
Okay.
That was an interesting play from Joe, baiting out the counter squall there. Again, even countering Lingering Souls wouldn't have been great, but he may have wanted to counter that instead of Thoughtseize, so good line of play there from Joe.
So let's see if Ben can find an answer to these souls that linger.
He's going to Thought Scar himself at end of turn, milling a Bolt and a Young Pyromancer. So his graveyard is fully stocked now. Any number of Delve creatures are ready and viable.
Looks like Joe has another Kitchen Finks in hand.
Well, he got remanded, so.
Oh, okay, that's right.
It's still in hand.
There is no Kitchen Finks on the board.
Ben does have the Engineered Explosive, so if he waits for Joe to flashback Lingering Souls, he could clean those up pretty nicely. I'll lead with another Searing Visions.
So
Carefully
Ben is crafting
crafting
the perfect hand here. Though it's maybe not, at this point, maybe not the greatest use of your mana. I think Ben wants to be trying to get on the board. He can very easily get behind in a race against these Lingering Souls, especially if Joe runs out the last two next turn. Those guys can get in for a lot of damage every turn.
Ben thinking carefully on these two scries. Looks like he likes one of the cards. He's going to put the other one at the bottom. And he's just going to pass again. All right, well, I think Ben does have quite a few more reactive cards in hand. Looks like he's got maybe another counter. I think I saw a Terminate in there, which
there's definitely
not great right now, but
he's got a Terminate, a Kolaghan's Command, and an Engineered Explosives. All pretty good ways to deal with these tokens. So I'm doubtful that Ben is actually going to run into a problem with these tokens because he has the explosives. But of course Joe doesn't know that. So Joe is probably just, Ben was very good about protecting his hand information in this game from the Thoughtseize. I think Joe might run out these Lingering Souls here and then get blown out simply because he's not going to know about the Engineer.
Ooh, it looks like, oh no, okay. He's going to cast his Kitchen Finks, which will get Mana Leak this time.
So this is the point in the game where if Ben can just hit a few Snapcasters, he's going to put Joe in a really tough position.
Right.
Because Snapcaster Mana Leak, here on out is still a good play. Joe's not going to get up to 4 more mana where he can where he can safely cast whatever it is he needs to cast.
And
but
his 3 mana plays.
It is possible that Joe brought in some threats like a Thrun the Last Troll, but I think that's unlikely.
Yeah. He didn't see any counters game 1, I don't believe.
All right, we'll see if Ben continues to protect his hand information here.
Well, yeah, letting this Inquisition resolve would let Joe know that he doesn't need to flashback Lingering Souls, so Ben is going to quickly counter-squall that.
And that 4 life from these 2 counter-squalls is quickly adding up. Joe is at 10.
Unfortunately, his Snapcaster immediately gets killed by Liliana the Last Hope, which now Ben is going to have to find a way to deal with.
Yeah, originally I liked the plan of protecting your hand information, but not being able to counter-squall that Liliana seems pretty bad. So,
and he's just going to pass here again. Unfortunately, he has Terminate, not the sorcery speed one Dreadbore, which would be able to kill Liliana in that situation.
If I were Joe, I would -2 this Liliana and get this Kitchen Finks back.
It looks like that might be what he's going to do. -2s. Said he's going to get back Tarmogoyf. Okay.
I don't know.
It is pretty large right now, I think.
That's true. I think I wanted the Finks there, though, especially because, Finks at least makes your opponent do some work to kill it with Fatal Push.
Right.
And Joe's life total is getting lower and lower, so I think that life could have been relevant.
So if Joe goes to flashback the Lingering Souls here, that would be very good for Ben. He's able to terminate Tarmogoyf here on the end step, untap, explosives for 0, and just take out all the Lingering Souls. So we'll see if that's what Joe decides to do.
So yeah, so Goyf is only a 4/5. I really would have liked to see the Kitchen Finks come back.
Ooh, instead he's going to play Dark Confidant. Okay.
Yeah, see now, and again, I know it's tough for Joe to play around Ben's Engineered Explosives. Obviously, we know Ben has an Engineered Explosives, but now he leaves himself to get really beat up if Joe decides to, or if Ben decides to engineer for 2 and take out this Goyf and this Confidant.
That'll be an interesting decision for Ben because he has some hard removal that can just take care of these creatures. Oh, instead he's just going to counter the Dark Confidant. Okay.
Yeah, that seems like an effective way to deal with that.
Right.
The other unfortunate thing about Engineered on 2 is that it would kill any live Snapcasters that you have. So
I think
that's not great.
Ben is probably going to be able to kill Liliana here if he removes Tarmogoyf, which is great for him.
Terminate, swing for 2 at Lily.
Fatal Push.
Fatal Push.
Same result.
So he's still got his Terminate.
Still got his Terminate, still got Engineered Explosives.
In case Joe drops that Thrag Tusk or something.
Is that a sword? I think Joe might have a Sorin in his hand. He does.
Oh yeah,
Sorin, Lord of Innistrad. Ooh.
Oh, not Solemn Visitor. Are you sure?
I'm not sure. It might be.
If it's a
The black white one.
if it's a Lord of Innistrad, I have a lot of respect for that. That card sort of became quickly overshadowed by the newer 4-drop Sorin, but I actually really like Lord of Innistrad. Can we get Lord of Innistrad up on the screen? It's so it's from Dark Ascension originally. It was the first 4-drop Sorin, the first progeny of the original 6-drop Sorin. Yeah, so this guy's pretty dope. Now that's the promo art, so the original art does not exactly look like that. But this guy puts out an emblem that gives your guys +1/0.
He is not going to play whichever Sorin is in his hand at this point. He's going to just deploy another Tarmogoyf, which probably going to get terminated here. Yep. So down goes another Tarmogoyf. Ooh, and Ben drew a Bolt. So Joe's going to fall to 8 here. His life total is pretty low, especially knowing that Ben has a Bolt in hand.
Yep, path the Snapcaster. That's probably what you have to do when your life's getting down this low. So let's see if Joe has the courage to try and resolve one of these Sorins, whichever one it is. Again, I still don't know which one is in his hand.
Yeah, you know, he is probably going to play a bit more reserved. He's gotten almost every one of his major threats countered. At this point, he is probably just, you know, worried about that happening again. And he still has both these Lingering Souls on board, slowly dwindling away Ben's life total. So instead, he's going to opt to flashback Lingering Souls, making 2 more flyers. And this board state, I mean, this seems good for Joe. We know that Ben has engineered explosives, which we'll almost certainly see.
Yep, and here comes the value train. Colligan's Command Snapcaster Mage. It's the reason to play the deck, folks.
In fact, if Joe took 2 damage there, he will be dead to Bolt, Snap, Bolt, which... Oh, it looks like Ben's not going to opt to do that. Oh, he has another Bolt in the yard earlier that he milled from Thought Scour. So yeah, this looks like Ben is going to win game 2 here with the 2 Bolts.
Yep.
And yep, that does it. Interesting. So even though he never dealt with all those spirits, he was just able to damage him out with direct burn. So that was a pretty well played game from Ben. Really was able to control early and then just finish him off quickly late with his burn spells.
Yeah, the remands and the mana leaks came up big there. Those cards are absolutely phenomenal against a deck like Joe's. You know, even when Ben you know, got baited into counter squalling that Inquisition of Kozilek.
Yeah, it didn't.
Ben powered right through that
the Liliana.
That Liliana. So,
of course, that was leveraged by the fact that Ben was on the play there. He was able to one-for-one counter every threat Joe deployed.
This is going to go back to being pretty tough for Ben on the draw. Of course, Joe is going to have the first chance to get his hand disruption out there.
Right.
He'll have the information, which is key, but he'll also be able to take that first mana leak or remand. Those are probably the cards you want to be taking, but I'm... Yeah, so do we think Joe's gonna be doing anything differently here? It looks like he is going back into his sideboard. Oh, no, he's not.
No, I think he just pile shuffled in. He's going to represent the deck here. Ben is reconsidering his sideboard, maybe taking out some of those counters on the draw here. That could be something he could do, bring in some more hard answers.
Mana leak is a good deal worse on the draw.
Okay, so Joe did make 1 additional sideboard change there. Looks like he put 1 more card in. Wonder what that card could be.
Maybe it's that Thrun the Last
Thrun the Last Troll.
Who knows?
Yeah, after seeing all those counters, it's pretty strong.
Yeah, that counter magic really did beat Joe up.
Oh yeah, he got at least 4 spells, maybe even 5. I think he got 5 spells counted because Counter Scroll twice, Mana Leak twice, and Remand. Yeah. And the Counter Scroll really put a lot of work in there. Basically let Ben kill Joe a turn early. Brought his life total down low enough that he was dead to the Kolaghan's Command and the double bolt.
So how bad is Leyline of Sanctity for Joe here?
Right. That when we were talking about sideboarding the first game, the hexproof Leyline could be pretty good on his end.
The Leyline of the Void, I still think is maybe hit or miss, but Leyline of Sanctity, again, it's tough. It's tough to beat down a card like that, and you know, so I don't know, and it's also tough to not have it in your opening hand because then you got to resolve it.
You want every card you can get in these mid-rangey matchups, but I mean, Leyline could be a pretty good boon for him. So we'll see if the players like their opening hands.
So I
see a lot of blue cards in Ben's hand.
Yeah, I see at least one Snapcaster and a Polluted Delta.
Yeah, Joe's hand. So it looks like Joe's hand there may have just been 4 lands and either 2 discard spells and a Fatal Push or 3 discard spells. Not enough action there, so he is going to mulligan to 6.
So I assume that we would know by now if this was the case, but there's a small chance that Joe has Noble Hierarchs here, and doing something like turn 1 Noble Hierarch, turn 2 Liliana of the Veil could be incredibly good because, you know, Ben won't have the opportunity to counter that.
Right.
But I think that's unlikely. Some of these Abzan decks do play like 3 Noble Hierarchs to supplement their 1-drops.
There, yeah.
But yeah, this mold of 6 could be painful. Hopefully Joe gets to lead with the hand disruption here.
Right. And hopefully gets to keep a 6. Going to 5 would be brutal. So it looks like he has a similar hand here.
I see a Thoughtseize.
This hand maybe...
I see 2 lands, 2 Thoughtseize. Is that right?
And a Fatal Push, I believe. I think this hand may be exactly what he just had, but down a card. So that's unfortunate for him.
Well, I think you've got to keep it.
Right. It looks like he is. He's going to scry to the bottom.
Let's see if he'll go to 15 here. I bet he wants to conserve his life total after that last game, but...
That's true, yeah. He's just gonna. He's not even playing his discard. Okay, that's interesting.
That is a Thoughtseize, right?
Yes, yeah. He definitely has. He has 2 Thougseizes and a Fatal Push. Huh. I guess he knows. Well, I guess he knows that there's no 1-drop that he needs to take out of Ben's hand. So
yeah,
there's no harm in delaying a turn. But you think if he would draw a 2-drop here, he wanted to play that instead.
Was that a Liliana of the Veil in Joe's hand though?
I'm not sure. The cards are not quite visible.
That card
it is a black card.
That card is good if you can get it to resolve here. It's very, very good. But
so Joe's gonna get a basic swamp here.
So I think now he's gonna run. I think he might have not wanted to fetch last turn, just to conserve his life total, and he might have been wanting to have particular.
So.
Lands.
Okay. So Ben did not cast his Seer Visions on the turn. It seems like he was planning to Thought Scour himself at Joe's end of turn, but the rest of his hand looks pretty good. He's got 2 card draw spells, Spell Snare, Snapcaster, and then I think that's a Murderous Cut.
Yep, that would be a Murderous Cut. The good old what is it, Delve 5?
Yeah, I think it's 6 mana total, 1 black and 5 colorless.
Yep, and it's just a murder. So
yep, you just get to. Well, it's Murderous Cut.
That's right. Interestingly, I did not know until this angle right here how much Murderous Cut looked like Tasker.
Tasker, right.
It looks a lot like a Tasker, but you can't fool me, Murderous Cut. That is definitely an instant.
It's people leaning on both cards. A black card got the Asylum Guard logo, and it's just people leaning. So
people leaning, yep. They're tilting us.
They're tilting Ben when he gets his graveyard exiled and can't cast it.
That's right. So Ben will hit his second land drop. Still going to hold off on the Serum Visions.
Right. It looks like Joe took the Snapcaster there with the Thoughtseize, so that probably a good choice. Since if he took one of the spells, the Snapcaster was just going to recast it.
Yep.
Now Joe is going to use his fetch, get a tapped Overgrown Tomb. So he definitely seems like he's being more careful with his life total after what happened last game.
So I thought Joe had a Goblet Shrine in his hand, but maybe that was the Marshflats I saw. But fetching like this leads you to believe he doesn't have any, operative white cards he wants to cast right now. So
he does have Liliana of the Veil. He drew into another Thoughtseize, it looks like, and a Gavany Township. Okay. Oof. That is brutal for Joe.
That is brutal.
He knew Ben previously didn't have a counter, but
yeah, counter scroll off the top is very good there.
Yeah, because getting that Liliana down would have been great for Joe.
Yeah, absolutely brutal if he can get that to resolve. Joe can sit there and discard.
And the rest of Joe's hand is not looking great. 2 Thoughtseize and a Fatal Push.
Wow, yeah, that is an incredible counter squall.
Huge gain for Ben. And
I thought Ben was just bluffing by not casting that Serum Visions, but that was that was an effective counter squall for sure. Joe's not too happy about that.
Yeah, Joe is really going to have to draw something meaningful here in the next few turns to get back into this game.
Yeah, so thank you to our stream operator for pointing that out. Ben did have 2 draws to get that counter squall.
One with Thought Scour, one with his draw for turn. And now Ben's going to suspend Ancestral, which going to be good for him. This game's probably going to go at least 4 more turns.
Yeah, Ancestral is a card that can be brutal in this matchup for these mid-range decks. Ancestral Vision can sometimes be the nail in the coffin against Jund and Abzan. They simply don't have that kind of raw card draw
an
outside
advantage
of Dark
you get
Confidant.
in playing blue in your deck. So let's see what Joe's going to take. He's going to take the Spell Snare. So he either has a 2-drop he wants to play here, or he's setting up for the potentiality of drawing 1. Shambling Vent. And he's going to pass. So I think his hand is still another Thought Scour and the Fatal Push.
Yeah, so Joe doesn't have a lot of ways to beat this this Ancestral Vision in the long game here.
I don't think he has. Oh, well, right. Once it resolves,
yeah,
it's going to be rough for him.
Joe, you know, he some of these Abzan decks. I don't know if you've seen this, but Abzan decks can actually splash blue themselves for Ancestral Vision. They call it moist junk. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on
moist junk.
Yeah, but I don't think that Joe's been hiding his watery grave this whole time.
His breeding pool or his watery grave, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, these Ancestral Visions, you know, in this kind of mid-rangey matchup,
they're great.
That's brutal. Especially when Joe's on a Multi 6.
Yeah. So here we'll see an Inquisition.
So Joe's got all the hand disruption. This hand is thoroughly disrupted.
Yeah, and you know it would be good for Joe if this Ancestral wasn't counting down to his impending doom.
Yeah.
He's picked apart Ben's hand pretty nicely here, but it might be for naught.
Yeah, there's almost no conceivable way that Joe can even pump out 13 damage in the next 2 turns.
As now I think he drew another land. And he's going to use his
probably going to take that Tassiger.
It's a Murderous Cut, remember?
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Confused again.
Foiled. Murderous Cut.
So it looks like Ben's going to respond to Thought Scour. He has Kolaghan's Command, okay. So probably 2 damage. No, he's going to force Joe to discard and get back Snapcaster, right? That is probably...
You know, I'm starting to think more and more that I actually would have really liked to see Leyline of the Void from Joe.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been good.
So we'll take the Murderous Cut.
And get a land here.
Does that mean that Joe's thinking about firing up the Shambling Vents?
I think he must be.
I think we're going to see some Shambling Vents action.
He can be free to get a shock land here, as he's just going to gain the 2 life back. Decides to get his Temple Garden, and yeah, that's firing up of the Shambling Vents.
Seems
little
good.
known standard all-star in any black-white deck.
Yeah, potentially the most powerful of the new man lands. Obviously, very few of these new man lands are as good as the old man lands.
Right. They
Except
definitely.
for Lava Claw Reaches is terrible, so I guess they're all better than Lava Claw Reaches.
Okay, that's fair.
But Shambling Vents is a good card. I think for a long time it's been crowded out because of Lightning Bolt, but it really is a good card. It's especially relevant in these burn matchups. Joe's other options would be Stirring Wildwood, and then although Stirring Wildwood's definitely more aggressive and gives you better defense against decks like Affinity with the reach, Shambling Vents is a very good man land.
So Ancestral did resolve there. Ben drew 3 cards. He's got about 1,000,000 cards in hand. A lot of blue spells. Looks like some more Snapcasters. I just don't see Joe making any headway here.
Yeah,
drawing 1 card
unfortunately, Joe did not have the double dash hopes for that that Ancestral Vision.
Another counter squall off the Snapcaster. Yeah, and things are just not looking great for Joe. He's going to fire up Shambling Vents again. At least it has lifelink.
Yeah, the lifelink is very relevant here.
Ben slamming Snapcaster in there. He knows he's got this under control. He can basically counter anything Joe does, kill anything Joe plays. If Shambling Vents is activated again, we'll probably see that be destroyed here.
I would love to see Ben drop a Goblin Dark Dwellers and cast Ancestral Visions again, just to rub it in.
Here is Scavenging Ooze.
So Scavenging Ooze is maybe I don't know, 6 or 7 turns too late here.
Yeah.
But
what spell do we think Ben's gonna remove this with? He could let it resolve, terminate it. He could he can't mana leak it. He could remand it. He could spell snare it. He is going to Snapcaster
spell snare. Yeah.
All right.
The tempo.
And I believe Joe will be dead here if Ben has any burn in hand or any way to Snapcaster back another burn spell.
Yeah,
if not, he falls to 1
on the wall,
and he drew a bolt.
He top deck a bolt. I say bolt him in the face.
Well, he's still going to be dead. Removes the Snapcaster, not quite enough as he does fall to 3.
So Joe has 1 mana.
No cards.
Up. So maybe Ben will run something out here to try to.
The slow roll.
Yeah, he's slow rolling his bolt. I think Ben just wants to. Oh, are they packing it up? Oh no.
No, he let.
See, he's just sitting on this bolt. I wonder. I honestly. I'm not sure if he. What could he be worried about there? He couldn't get mana tithed.
I think he's just rubbing it in.
Man, the scumbag Ben.
Oh. Okay. It looks like we were incorrect about the life totals. Joe's actually at 5. All right.
Okay. Well, that makes more sense.
Yeah. turns out Ben is not a scumbag. He was not just sitting on this bolt and valuing his way into a win.
So now we'll probably see.
You will need to get 1 more hit in here with the Snapcaster. Ooh, Shambling Vents getting terminated immediately. Oh. No. He just tapped it for fun. Thought he maybe had a path there. There's the bolt. And that's game. So, getting that Liliana counted on turn 2, that pretty much lost the game for Joe there.
Joe had a very clear line to victory there with, with the Thoughtseize, coast is clear, cast the Liliana, but he got beat by that Thought Scour into counter squall.
And he just didn't draw it. Basically, almost every card he drew that game was land or
hand disruption.
A hand disruption. And against Ancestral Vision, that just wasn't getting there. So we see the advantage that blue gives you in these mid-range matchups. Extra card draw and counter spells.
Yeah, maybe we'll see Joe try out the moist junk strategy.
The moist junk. We can only hope.
All right. Well, we will see you guys for round 2, which should begin shortly here. As you can see, the game clock is quickly counting down. So the round will be over shortly. So don't go too far. We will be back with round 2 of more exciting modern Magic here at GameSwap and Mason, brought to you by Top Deck Productions through Twitch TV.
Yep. Thanks for tuning in, guys.